Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Hello, and welcome to the Broken Road Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today, I'm joined by Taylor Moellering. How are you doing today, Taylor?
Good. I'm doing well.
Awesome. I guess let's just start off and tell us a little bit about yourself. Taylor was my OT driving instructor at Baylor. She got me back on the road. So I will at least give you that short introduction
Perfect.
and then let you roll.
Well, I'm Taylor. I have been an occupational therapist for 6 years now, and I've been a driving rehabilitation specialist for 2 years. In the 6 years I've been an occupational therapist, I've always worked in a day neuro setting. So somewhere where people are coming in most of the times about 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, getting PT, OT, speech therapy. And I used to work for a different company, and then I've worked for Baylor now for 4 years. Okay. So I've really enjoyed it. And then driving's been a new adventure for me, but it's been really rewarding.
So you have to be a brave soul to get in there and drive with somebody like me, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I feel at first I thought I would be really nervous about it. And then after I got some training, now I feel so confident about my ability to stop somebody. I have the chicken brake on my side. Right. And with that, I feel like I can really protect us and make sure we're safe. But that doesn't mean there's not times that it is really scary.
I was going to say, so it was an hour and a half drive for me, or a little bit short of that every day going up there, which I had vision problems and multiple things, but I'm not a good rider anyway. Yeah. And I didn't have a chicken brake on my side. But I was trying to stop the car multiple times. So I can only imagine if I was you on the other side, we probably wouldn't even get through the driving. It'd be like, Are we going to move? Nope. I'm just going to hold my foot on the brake right here.
Yeah. It can be really tempting to want to press that brake. And I try my best not to touch it unless I feel like we're about to have an issue. Right. I need to stop for a safety reason, but otherwise I'll try to give more verbal cues. Like, I need you to slow down a little bit, or give a little bit more space in front of that car. And, but it can be hard. It's tempting.
Well, and I'm sure you're probably trying to avoid that partially because you don't want to discourage the person that's trying to drive or distract them from what they're doing, because there's a lot going on as a stroke survivor or patient. Yes. Or anybody that's trying to learn how to drive again.
Absolutely. And during evaluation, I really want to see where they're at, not where I'm stopping them. And then in training, I want them to correct their mistakes. I don't want to correct their mistakes constantly for them, or, you don't learn as often or as much. And so, yeah, it's tempting, but I try not to.
Yeah, no doubt. So looking it up, I was doing a little bit of research, and it looks like Baylor's one of the very few places that even offer a program like that. So, yeah. I mean, I feel blessed that I was even able to be there and meet you and do that program, and that you were there to do that. How did that come about?
Yeah. Baylor has had somewhere between 2 to 3 driving specialists at a time that works for the company, but most of the other drivers were closer to the Dallas area. And so our Fort Worth clinic has been interested in a long time in offering that, because for a long time we were having to send our patients to Dallas, and not everyone has the means to get over there, or it's a really far drive. So we would just have people say, oh, well, then I'm just not going to do the driving evaluation, and then either choose to go back to driving in an unsafe way or just never go back to driving. Right. And so our company was really dedicated to getting that program in Fort Worth, and they knew that they wanted an OT to do it. And at the time I was working part-time for Baylor. And so they asked if I'd be interested. They felt like my personality was a good match for the driving world. And I was not sure at first, but I thought about it for a good year before they were really ready to start the program, and I prayed on it a lot. And after about a year, I thought, I really feel like this is the direction I'm being sent in, and that this would be good for me. And I did feel like it would be a good match for my personality, at least. And I just didn't know if I would like it. And so I said yes to the job. I decided to go for it. And then once I started training, I really fell in love with it, and it fit well.
Yeah, I think when you do something, if you're led to do something and you do pray on it, like you said, it's going to work out. And you're going to, and it who knows when you try to do it on your own, where you end up. So,
right. Yeah. It worked out well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I just, I couldn't do it. There's no way.
It's definitely not a good fit for everybody. And we have other amazing OTs that work for Baylor, but a lot of them did not feel that it was a good fit for them. And so it worked out for the best.
So I feel like that's a good segue for one of the questions I had. One question would be, well, first of all, let's just define OT as an occupational therapist. So most people, when they hear that word, they automatically assume, okay, you get people back to work, which is possibly part of what you do, but that is not all you do. How would you define the occupational therapy world?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People think occupational therapists, sometimes they think I'm finding people jobs even, but it's really, it's about getting people back to meaningful activities. So that could be in different stages of life or different stages of recovery. So whenever people are right after an injury in the hospital, some of those meaningful tasks that they're able to get back to might be brushing your teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed. But at the stage that I get to see people in where they're out of the hospital, they're back home, that turns more into cooking and maybe even mowing your lawn. Maybe you're still working on getting dressed and we're still getting better with that. And then a little later on in that recovery, it does turn into more of that return to work, return to driving. But OT is very task specific. So what does that person specifically want to get back to? What tasks are important to them? And then we make sure that we are building up your skills to be able to do those tasks and get back to those meaningful activities.
So your process is probably, it is very personal. I think all of the modalities are, but the OT specifically, I remember being asked multiple times, what's important to you? And what do you see yourself or want to gain out of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a hard question on a normal day.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what do you really want out of life in general? And you're trying to find that out from somebody that's not able to necessarily tell you exactly what they want. They may even have a hard time getting it out sometimes. I imagine.
And sometimes people have these really big goals that those are the easy ones to see. And so they come to us and they say, I want to get back to work and I want to get back to driving. Those are very attainable or I guess tangential goals for them to think in their mind. But then we're like, you can't even put a pair of socks on. So we've got to start somewhere else first. And so part of our job at the beginning is sometimes that realization of we've got to make some other goals as well that are breaking down tasks that you are able to do right now. Those will help you with the long-term goals of getting back to driving and work, but we've got to break down everything first. And that also helps celebrate the smaller wins. You know, you can celebrate more wins throughout your recovery if you're making goals that are more attainable. And sometimes that can be, I like to get on the floor and play with my kid and I can't get on the floor right now and get back up. And so sometimes it's things like that first.
Some meaningful tasks.
Yeah, still meaningful, but it does. Sometimes we have to guide people to think about other meaningful tasks that are attainable at that time.
Exactly. And I think that was a question before I even got into therapy. One of the doctors, we were discussing what my life was going to look like, you know, and the question of whether are you going to do open heart surgery or not do open heart surgery? What does that look like after? What do you see quality of life as? You know, is your quality of life, okay, you're immobile, but you get to spend the time with your family. That was huge for me.
Yeah.
Very hard to swallow. I mean, as I was trying to swallow there, really hard to swallow that's a conversation that I had at one point. But I think that says a lot, and that's a lot of what you deal with. So it's probably a lot of emotions that run pretty high in what you do. How do you handle that? How does that work?
It definitely is challenging, and there's a lot of heightened emotions. Even after something like a stroke or brain injury, the centers of your brain that control emotions are also a little bit out of whack. And so not only is it already an emotional recovery and emotional time to talk about what capabilities are for that person, now they also are having a hard time handling their emotions. So usually when I'm working with people, I try to stay as positive as I can. And I really do try to celebrate all of the wins. And I think as a therapist, we get so excited for those small wins, and they're not small to us, they're big to us.
Yeah.
But you could be even that someone finally can turn their hand over that couldn't before. And we're jumping up and down and excited. And that kind of clues that person in that this is exciting. I should be excited for this too. And what are the meanings for that? And so I think by having those celebrations for people, they can realize that all the wins are big wins, and that they can be excited about return back to prior life in any capacity. Even if that return back doesn't look the same as it did before.
Yeah, I think that one thing that y'all did that helped me a lot was things like that. I still struggle with seeing some of those small wins, but I know they're there. The level of humility has changed a lot, through the process. There's a lot of humiliating things that happen, but humility is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think a lot of people probably could really use a little more humility in their lives. And I was one of those. But through that process, I think learning those, seeing those small wins is a level of learning humility as you're doing that. And part of the recovery process, as far as the way I see it, is finding the joy in those small wins and realizing, hey, I still have breath in my lungs. I'm still alive, and I can do things. I'm not laid up in a hospital bed, and that's not everybody's story. So I think it's important to see that as well and be able to see life through that lens as a survivor. And a therapist. I mean, y'all have. I'm sure, just like any job, you do it day to day. It takes a lot of focus probably to remain, to continue that level of care, I guess I should say.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely challenging at times. You see these people going through really challenging things, and so you're trying to be that positive person for them. But you do have to go home. And even as a therapist, I'm celebrating the wins myself, right? So that I can continue on and find purpose even within my own job, and be able to continue to come in every day and be that positive person for them. And I think for me, a lot is perspective too, is that you guys are going through something so tough, and it makes me more thankful for my life and changes the way that I view my life. And so I think even when I've had a really tough day at work, I come home and I'm just so thankful for what I have. And then I can pour a lot of my energy back into you guys, and take that thankfulness and positivity back to say, okay, I can be there for this person.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the next question of how which you kind of answered it already, but I mean, you have a life too. And I think that survivors, and I speak from my personal experience, I forget that you do. It's like, well, this is all I'm doing. Every day I'm showing up and you're showing out for me, and I'm doing my best to try to impress you too at some point. I want to do well because you're pushing me, but I kind of forget that you go home and you have your own things too. So not every day's peachy, I mean, stuff happens. There's still wrecks happen, and life just in general happens. And there may be somebody in your family that's sick. You're still dealing with that, but you have to still put that game face on when you come to work. So I mean, that's how do you keep your cup full?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think you answered that, but I think a lot of people forget that.
I mean, again, seeing people go through such challenging things helps me stay thankful for what I have in life. And that does help keep my cup full. And I do live a life of faith, and that helps as well, because I don't have to carry all those burdens myself. And so when I am unable to let something go at work, and I keep thinking about this person, and I'm thinking, how much more can I help them? What can I do for them? Or maybe I'm getting to a part where I feel like we've plateaued and I don't know what else to do. I can really take that burden, give it to God, and say, help me with this, or help them, you
Right.
can help them more than I can. And so I think that does give me a peace of mind, is that I'm not alone, and I'm not even alone in the stance of having faith on my side, but even with having so many other coworkers, and we do lean on each other a lot.
Mhm.
I'm stuck. I'm trying to help this person with their vision or their arm or whatever it is. And whatever I'm doing doesn't feel like it's working. And so can you treat that person today? And can you um, see them and tell me if you have any other ideas? And so it just helps to have other people to lean on and to have such great coworkers. I'm really thankful
That's a
for
special
that.
place.
It
I mean,
is.
it really is. I cannot, I could speak volumes about it. I almost every podcast, especially when I'm talking to one of y'all, I can't put you on a bigger platform than what I can do here, and say that now that I've started visiting other places and seeing other programs, and I'm still working on getting out to more. There's something special about the day neuro program there at Baylor, and even the inpatient upstairs is just, and I don't know if all Baylors are that way, but that
Yeah.
specific place has something special.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I think it's special too. And it's made a lot of us want to stay there and work there for a long time,
Right.
because, and I've worked in other places before that haven't been that way, that have a lot of other great pros to working there.
Mhm.
But the community at Baylor really is special.
Yeah. Well, and I think that probably, just like you said, attests to the quality of care for the patients.
Yeah.
If you're at odds with your coworkers every day and you don't really want to even be around them when you go there, that really would make it very hard to be
Oh, yeah.
pleasant with the patients. And they're the most important thing that's going
For sure.
that you're
Yeah.
going to work for every day.
Yeah. And the beauty of healthcare too is you go to work and you give it your all, and you can give it your all. But you can't take your work home with you.
Right.
You leave and your patients go home and you go home, and that also, that time off is important. And so
very much.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
really special about healthcare in general, is that you go home and you can unplug a little bit
Right.
from that.
Yeah. And I try to remind, specifically, I'm not going to say any names, but the peer mentor program up there, you have to talk to somebody to get in on it, and
Mhm.
they're busy too.
Yeah.
And I remind people, I'm trying to get some other people in on it. I'm like, okay, but they have their life too.
Yeah.
There's time off.
It's important too.
Weekends are time off, and that's so important to be able to recharge and come back.
For sure.
So, because we did bring up and talked about faith, as far as patients go, do you see people's lives change in that way, leaning more towards faith? And does faith play a role in recovery? Do you see that recovery process go smoother with someone that has a heavier or a stronger faith? I mean, just kind of curious, really.
Yeah, no, I feel like I do. Not everyone that comes our way is a person of faith, and that's okay. We still can love them the way that we feel like we're called to do. And I feel like that helps to have support, or for them to even have other people in their family that are people of faith that are there to support them. I feel like there's that dedication and that weight off. But I do feel like my patients that don't have that faith struggle a little bit more with finding a purpose and finding a new path and trust.
Right.
Because the special thing about people that do have faith is that they have trust that God has a plan for them. And so even if they can't see that plan, and that's really frustrating, they can lean into that faith. And people that don't have that can say, my life's over. And even though I lived, I'm not living the way that I want to live. And that can be really discouraging. And that mindset can really set back therapy.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they can get stuck on wanting to do things exactly like they were before, or just not taking those wins like we talked about. And so that slows down recovery when you've got that type of mindset. And so if we can at least get people to think positively about their outcomes in life and how they can live life, that really does help recovery. And with people of faith, that tends to come a little bit more naturally. And then you can even tie in faith, right, with those conversations to to help them lean into prayer and to their support systems, and have that positive view and that trust that things are going to be okay.
Right. And well, they have reason. I mean, there's,
Mm-hmm.
I was telling you about that book that I'm reading, The Reason for God. And that's a kind of multi-level, there's a play on words in there, but, it kind of gives you a reason. Me in particular gave me a reason to push on,
Yeah.
and trust and faith that I was going to have some purpose when I was done. I had no idea what it was going to be, how much
Right.
recovery was going to be involved. I feel like I had a miraculous recovery considering where I was a year and a half ago.
Absolutely.
And I give all that praise to God. I worked really hard. And I think that, we were talking about it and you can talk about this further, but the body's going to follow what the brain wants,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like if you're spiritually connected or you have there is a reason and you have a want, that your recovery is going to be a lot different. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Does change a lot.
Yeah. I think that's important that for people to know, like, because for me, Gary came in and was awesome. And I know Gary doesn't mind it. I talk about him coming in.
Love it.
But he's a big part of my story, and told me, he's like, hey man, you can lay there and wallow in your pity and be, have your pity party. That's perfectly acceptable. You're going through something pretty heavy, but you won't get any better laying there, and that was the words that I needed to hear. I really did just kind of want to go to sleep and either wake up and something was different, or it was over. I mean, it really was in dire times. So I want to make sure that point gets across, that you do have to want it. And the more you want it, the probably better success you're going to have through your therapy process.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can help you all day. And if you're not wanting it and you're not putting in the own work, then you might make some positive recovery when you're with therapy, but we're not there to be with you for your whole life.
Right.
And so when you end therapy, if you haven't been putting in the effort yourself, you'll go home and decline. And that's really tough to see, because it does happen. And also you'll just be with us longer, right? But if you're putting in that work, then recovery happens so much faster. And then we see that the gains that are made in therapy carry on.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something as far as, what I'm trying to do and the word that I'm trying to get out when I'm talking to survivors. I try to remind them that that's just the start. What we do there and what y'all do for that's the beginning steps to what's going to be a long marathon.
Absolutely.
I still walk daily. I still coming up the stairs to get up here. That's therapy for me.
Oh, yeah.
I do that multiple times a day. I leave things up here on purpose for that reason. I still have vertigo. I mean, there's still things that I still have vision issues in my left eye. There's things that are, and some of it, I wonder if it's ever really going to go away, and honestly, there's some of it that I don't mind, because it is a reminder daily that something has changed in my life and keeps me humble. I think that if I just went back, if I was completely recovered and healed, that I may forget all the things I've learned, and that would be tragic.
Yeah,
it really would at this point. To go anywhere, any other direction than the direction I'm going, for me, would be feel like a complete loss of everything that got me here.
I think that's a great point of view to have, because I think people can get hung up on wanting that full recovery, and that's not true for a lot of people.
Right.
They'll recover in a very functional way, but a full recovery is not always feasible. And and so to have that mindset of this can be a reminder of also the positives that come from my life, and that I'm remembering to spend more time doing the things that are most important to me. And so I think that's really amazing that you think that way. And I hope that a lot of people feel that way. But if not, I encourage you to feel that way more often, because it can keep you going, and you can still do a lot of the things that you find meaningful in life.
And that's the point. I mean, that's why we're visiting today. I really want to try to get this out to as many people as I can. This is not necessarily the most comfortable thing I've ever done, but this is what I was called to do. And I'm not going to deny that. It was really kind of a question of, now most people that know me, I mean, I made music. I do like talking. So that part wasn't necessarily out of my wheelhouse, but being very open about my Christianity and talking about uncomfortable things and even showing some, I don't know the right word to say, but just showing the more sensitive side of me to whoever's willing to watch the podcast. That's a different step for me.
Yeah.
And not always necessarily the most comfortable thing, but definitely what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So,
yeah.
So back to the driving part of what you do, because that is your main gig there. Yep. You got me back to driving. How was, let's just start there with your experience with me. How did I do?
Oh, you did great actually. But yeah, I mean, when you first came to us, we were like, no, man, we still had some things to do before I could even get you behind the wheel.
Right.
A lot of people come to our program, and they come to our program even now because of the driving program sometimes. So they come in and they say, when can I see you? And I say, oh, you've got some work to do first, unfortunately. And so first step is just building up those skills to be able to drive. And for you, that was a lot of vision. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't just through us, but also working with neurooptometry and making sure that you had the visual skills that were going to be required before we got you behind the wheel.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. If Dr. Connolly's watching, you're coming on. He said he would. He said he wanted to come out here. So
he likes to talk to you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, doing work through your skills first was the first step, because if I were to get people behind the wheel right when we got there, my job would be very scary.
Oh, I can only imagine.
By the time people come and start to work with me, I'm starting to feel like we are prepared to work through those challenges. And so, we drove, and we're talking about, okay, you could do a basic drive. Can you do more challenging drives? And can your vision hold up? And do we have the visual endurance even to drive and maintain lane positioning?
Which is crazy. So I didn't realize, and you told me it was part of it, but how long did we end up driving? I mean, more or less, do you think?
We drove, my evaluation is a little over 60 minutes, so a little over an hour. And
I was exhausted.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had no idea. I was like, I felt like the driving went pretty good, but I was at the end of that, was like, okay, it's just like really good time to be stopping, because I did not feel comfortable anymore.
And not everyone that I see can even make it through the hour. And so sometimes I'll take a break. I'll see, did a 5-minute break mean that now you can drive again, or are you out? Are we done? And I have to now drive us back. And so an hour seems like a long drive, and it is, but it's a great starting point to see what that endurance is like.
I think that's another one of those things that people take for granted. I definitely did. It's so important. It's an important part of life. There's a freedom to that, to being able to get in a car and drive. And when that freedom's not there, man, it's frustrating. So I can imagine like we were talking about, everybody's super excited. Oh man, I'm going to get to go with Taylor. So I'm going to do a driving test. And you're like, no, wait.
Wait, one second.
What was the thing called that you had to use your feet and your hands at the same time? For me, it's great, because I'm kind of, Amber calls me Rain Man when it comes to that. But
it's called the eye, hand, foot Valpar. Yeah. And for people that want to imagine it, if you've ever played, there's like a little game called Labyrinth, and it's like this little ball in the a wooden maze. This is like a bigger version of that. And so you're using your hands for side to side coordination, your foot for pedal control. But we're also looking at reaction speed. You're trying to get this ball through the maze and not fall in these little traps throughout it. And can you quickly react? And if you had it fall in a place you didn't want to, can you problem solve through how to get past that stage next time?
Right.
So we have people do that in order to prepare for driving. And people say, this is nothing like driving. And I'm like, actually, it's using a ton of skills that you use for driving. And so it's, they correlate a little bit, your performance in that and driving. And so,
it was a challenge for me. I loved it. I was like, well, yes, I'll do that every day. Let's do it.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Some people love it. And a lot of competitive people get a couple couple curse words in there. It can be frustrating, but it's a really great exercise to work on those skills.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's super important to be able to do that and be able to offer that to people. I just didn't realize how important that was to me.
Yeah. A lot of people, that's a huge piece of independence, and you don't realize what you have until you don't have it. And so they've been driving around for a long time. And then when you all of a sudden can't drive and you're relying on other people to take you places, that can be really challenging. And having the ability to drive means that you can go do things on your own instead of, I can go to the grocery store by myself and walk around the grocery store by myself. But if you can't get yourself there, then someone's going to be with you all the time.
Yeah. And having to have somebody with you to do everything that's a whole nother level of frustration that comes too. My family's not okay with me driving to Fort Worth by myself.
Yeah.
I think I can do it. And I know I can do it. I just need to rest. There's time in there that I do have to rest, but they're still not comfortable with that. So there's days when I really want to go and visit with some people, and they're like, well, I can't get anybody to go. And they're like, well, we can't stop you, but we really, really would rather you wait until we can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, but it is, there's days that's very frustrating.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And unfortunately I do have times that I can't let someone go back to driving, and I make that recommendation that they're not driving. And I don't take that lightly, because I do understand that it's a huge piece of independence, but also my number one priority is keeping that person safe and keeping other people out on the road safe. Because it's not worth going back to driving in an unsafe manner to where you're just going to go get yourself hurt.
Right.
And I have people all the time say, well, I'm okay with hurting myself, but I don't want to hurt somebody else. And so what if I just drive on my own private areas and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, we do value you, and you've been through this huge recovery, and we want to keep you safe. And there's still probably other people out there, even if you think it's just the neighborhood. There's tons of people in the neighborhood. And so there's not really a safe
as simple
place.
as somebody walking across the street.
Exactly.
I mean, I see it even with myself. I know for 100% fact that my reaction time is not what it was pre-stroke. It's good. I feel safe. I don't feel like I'm out there endangering people, and I don't think you'd allow me that opportunity to drive if I was.
Right.
But I still know for me, like, there's certain ways that I look when I'm looking left to right. I spend a lot more time evaluating the situation before I move. And that I'm probably a safer driver now than I was before, you know. They're definitely don't look down at my phone. Don't look down at my radio even. That's a weird thing after the stroke. Like, if I look away from the road, whatever way I'm looking, that's the way the car is going to go.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that regardless of stroke or not.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
So since we're talking about driving, and that is the main thing, what would you say is the most extreme deficits that you deal with in trying to get somebody able to drive? Because for me on the Broken Road Project, when we're working on raising money, that is one thing that's near and dear to my heart, is making sure people can drive that can't. And I know that's a very expensive thing, and insurance companies don't necessarily want to pay for those adaptations. And I want to be able to help people do that, because there is such a freedom in driving. So
yeah, absolutely. That is one of the hardest parts, is when people have more impairments physically, then there's still a lot of ways that someone can drive, but they get expensive. And so I train people on hand controls, left foot accelerator, alternative steering devices. There's lots of different equipment out there, which is wonderful that all of this has been invented so that people of different needs can drive. But your medical insurance and your car insurance don't cover that equipment.
No.
And a lot of times if there's someone in a wheelchair, they don't even have the car that can fit them in it yet.
Right.
And so you've got to buy a new car now, and then you've got to buy the equipment. And then you have to pay the labor fees to get it all installed.
Which I'm hoping we can raise money. I mean, that is, like I said, that is one of my goals. And I've told people it's very expensive. I mean, I would imagine upwards, just some of the things I've looked at for adaptations, up to $30,000 just to adapt an existing car.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure
it's
you,
so expensive.
You're trying to figure out probably I'm just guessing, but you would be trying to also evaluate what's the least amount of adaptations you can drive with, so that person can actually hopefully afford or get that done.
Yes, absolutely. And so if I'm training somebody and let's say they're still in their recovery process and at their current point, they might need some equipment, but I think that in a month they aren't going to need equipment. I'm not going to train them on that equipment. I'm going to say, I know that you want to drive right now, but I want you to wait a month and come back to see me because I don't think you're going to need equipment then. And it's not worth the price to get that if you don't need it in the future. But for people that definitely need that equipment, then I'm trying to keep that in mind. I'm trying to use the least amount of equipment as possible and the cheaper equipment if I know that a certain brand is a little bit less expensive. And now some of the brands have specific products that work better for people. And so I'm saying, I know this is not the cheapest one, but I do think it's the best one for you. But I also talk to them a lot about financing. And so I usually will give them resources of medical fundraising websites, grants, scholarships, even there's
some things you can share with us as well that absolutely. Maybe we can put some links at the end of the podcast for people to have for resources would be great.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll definitely share. And there's companies like Texas Workforce Commission and Arcel, and they will pay for training and equipment, but they take a long time to get set up with, and not everybody qualifies for those services. And even the grants and scholarships might only be certain times of the year. And so depends on people's timeline of when they want to get back to driving as well. But financial assistance for this type of thing is very important and something even the driving community still works for with even like lobbying to government and insurance companies to see if they'll cover these services more often.
Which would be long-term goals for the Broken Road Project. I mean, we're just getting started. So, and hopefully that legacy will carry on way past my lifetime. You know, I hope that my family, my son, or anybody that wants to pick up the torch and run with it, long-term goals would be full-blown advocacy and lobbying Congress to make some changes, because I think the biggest thing that probably is irritating to me right now that I see is the fight with insurance. So, and I talk about it a lot. I plan on having some people on that are very specific on insurance and dealing with that. I've got a nurse coming on, a good friend of mine, Brandy, is coming on in a couple of weeks. She's been doing it for 20 years.
Awesome.
So she's seen the fight and the amount of documentation that you'll have to do to try and get this insurance cleared. When they're sitting there, you know, my big deal that I always say is they're just looking at you like a number. They don't, and you're seeing this person. So, you know, you're a big advocate for them. And then their family has to be an advocate. There's a lot of work that goes on in the recovery process and trying to get back to some kind of normalcy with life after a stroke, TBI, SCI, any neurological condition. There's just a lot of work, a lot of money involved.
It is. It's expensive. Recovery is, and it is a lot of work. And then especially if you've had a stroke or a brain injury, now you're struggling cognitively a little bit. And so for people that don't have that support system, it can be really challenging to make sure that you're getting the services that you're paying for and that you deserve through that insurance company.
Which again, I mean, I keep saying it, but that is, I mean, anybody that wants to donate or volunteer time is huge with the Broken Road Project. I mean, that's part of it. I want to be able to meet somebody where they're at, you know, and be able to go into a room. I want to start some other programs outside of Baylor that are similar to that peer mentor program, because I think that's very special and unique to that place as well.
Definitely.
I've tried to go to other facilities and offer services, and they're like, well, you can come and take your trash out. You can come and answer phones or mop the floors. And I'm like, well, I actually want to share my experiences. I went through this thing. I survived it. And I want to help your people that are going through rehabilitation get the most that they can get out of it and be an advocate for them. So,
Yeah.
but I can't do that. It's become very clear that I'm getting busier. I can't do it by myself and I need help.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that I keep saying that are alone. And like you just said, I mean, they really don't have family close to them. They don't have any more family because of their age, and they've just outlived everybody,
Yep.
is a possibility too. And they're sitting there taking the words of whoever's taking care of them.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, y'all are a really good group of caring people, but I've also been in facilities where you're just also, for lack of better words, piece of meat. You're just really
it's
not getting that care on a personal level.
Right. Yeah. That's the hard thing with a lot of healthcare too, is most people that work in healthcare are really called to help people and be there for people. But then there's also business to run.
That's right.
And so you got this therapy team that might not even care about the business, that they care about you, and they're really trying to fight for you. But then there's also limitations within that, because there is a business there. And so you've got your higher ups as well that are doing their best to make sure that there is still a facility to come to.
That's right.
And so it's double-edged sword almost. It's a
juggling act.
It's a juggling act. Yeah, there you go. It's a juggling act of providing care, running a business, but also genuinely having interest in people's well-being.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something that I like to always try to highlight too, is the amount of documentation it takes to do, especially for the insurance companies, to continue therapy, and we've provided some funds and tried to help people with a couple therapy sessions while they're in between time where insurance is like, well, I don't really know. And the therapist is like, hey, but if this person just had, a month more of therapy, they would be good. Or there would be leaps and bounds made in that time frame, but their insurance is like, well, they've already, and no matter how you document that, you're fighting this.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine there's frustration on all ends. And I even think that the higher ups now, I'm sure there's a level where there's changes. Yeah. But management, at the facility, I'm sure they have that same heart. I know they do there. Absolutely. At that facility that you work at. I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of them are therapists. And so they do have that care as well. And part of that care, like I said, goes into wanting to make sure that we still have a facility for people to come to.
That's right. So I think we're kind of getting close. Is there I have a couple more things. Is there anything you feel like we haven't gone over that you kind of want to hit on? Because we really are, the point of this is to try to educate and inspire. Either, an education goes across not only survivors, but their caretakers and even just the average person that may run across this podcast on accident, that this stuff is going on every day. Yeah. So just kind of thinking of it that way, is there anything that we haven't hit on or?
Yeah. Well, if you came on to watch this podcast and you're thinking, I'm going to see a driving specialist come and talk, some things I encourage you to do is, if you're someone going through recovery, no matter what stage, if you haven't gotten that clearance to drive again, I highly recommend that you don't drive, which is hard. It's hard to do. But again, that it's important to keep yourself safe, to keep others safe. And so I encourage you to go through the right steps to get yourself back to such an important skill, but also a skill with such great risks. And so that's kind of a team approach. And so your doctor might be looking at, are you medically stable to drive? And then your therapy team might be thinking, are you functionally able to drive? Yes, your doctor said you're medically stable, but do you actually have the skills required? And through that collaborative work, and even your family can be a part of it, is they've actually seen some concerns at home that maybe we didn't get to see. And they're thinking, I don't know how they could drive. They couldn't make a sandwich, And so having a collaborative work of amount around whatever community you have, if that's just your medical team or whatever it is, really working with them to determine when the best time to go back to driving is. And for some people, they're doing super, super well. And so that recommendation to go back to driving might be a really gradual return back to driving in the safest way possible. It might mean that we want you to go to the DPS and do a road skills test there and have that check off from the state of Texas saying, yes, you are good to go back to driving. Or it might be a referral to an adaptive driving specialist because we have some concerns, but we think you could get there. Or maybe you need specialized equipment. And so coming to a driving specialist and then seeing if that person feels like you can get back to driving or not. But I really encourage people to take their time and take the proper steps because safety is most important of all. And
it's not just their safety, it's everyone's safety. It's everyone's safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad you added it there, you know, because people do get, I'm sure, very impatient, and it's like, oh, I can do this. And you really, even myself, I felt like I was in a, you know, different place than I was, you know, and then still different, even though we went through a lot of different scenarios, you know, we didn't happen to hit any really hard traffic that day. Mm-hmm. That is so much more taxing on your your body and your mind than I could have ever imagined. I mean, the first time I got in traffic, by the time I got, you know, to Baylor, I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, I was completely exhausted.
Yeah. It's exhausting. It is. It takes so much brain power. You're physically constantly watching. And so, I try my best to make my evaluation as comprehensive as possible, but I can't encounter every situation. I actually hope that we don't run into a situation where having to dodge someone else doing the wrong thing, but that happens all the time while driving.
No, people are not very good drivers in general.
No.
So, you know, take that, add a couple more levels of, you know, difficulty to it. And then that's just, can be a really dangerous mix. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think what you're saying is right. And definitely consult with your doctor, your family members, and be patient and give yourself grace, because as much as you want to do that, you don't want to hurt somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And people,
or yourself.
Yeah. And people always think, oh, I could just do a neighborhood drive that's safe, but that's not the truth. Yeah. There's a lot of movement in the neighborhood.
Could be running across the street, kids, and you miss that.
Cars moving, cars pulling out of driveways. So there's not really any safe situation until you're at the point in recovery where you're ready for it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming
You're
on
welcome.
Today. That's awesome.
It's been fun. Yeah, I'm glad I came.
My honor to have you on. And, you know, I'm hoping that we're going to kind of have some returns, you know, next year. So maybe you can come back on and we'll have some more exciting things to talk about. And
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody have a blessed day. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Bye.